Hello, everyone. This is Wrestling Watcher, a YouTube channel. It's about watching professional wrestling, so it is official. AJ Styles laid down his gloves on Monday Night Raw in Atlanta, and he has officially been announced as part of the 2026 Hall of Fame ceremony as an inductee. He will be in the Hall of Fame, and so deservingly so. You look at AJ Styles' career. He began in the late 90s, early 2000s. Very early 2000s as part of that late WCW era. And it's too bad WCW was, dead on its legs at that time because, young AJ Styles with a chance to bloom in a company like WCW. When I say bloom in a company like WCW, I mean assuming that WCW is healthy and not completely dead, right? That would have been something interesting to see, but obviously he was one of the originals of TNA. Jeff Jarrett has said that he brought him in intending to make him the centerpiece, and you had him, Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels, Frankie Kazarian, and Robert Roode would eventually come along, and you had that early bunch there, along with the veteran Jeff, and eventually, obviously, TNA would add Sting, Kurt Angle, but we're talking about that early Asylum run, that 2002, 2003, 4 era, where, and you got to throw in, obviously, 2005, where AJ Styles was just unbelievable. We'd never seen anything quite like that. His movements, he was so unbelievably athletic. And he stayed with that company for a good long while, I think. I think it was 2013. He eventually left there, if memory serves. It was 2013 because, if memory serves, there was the Aces and Eights storyline where Bully Ray, not Bubba Ray, Bully Ray, same person, different name. Bully Ray was champion, and they had AJ in like the black outfit, and he was sort of playing that 96 sort of Sting character where he's not really with the good guys, TNA, but, he's not with the bad guys either, obviously, in Aces and Eights, and it turns out, he would eventually go against Aces and Eights, but he would run with them for a little bit, pretending to be sort of part of the group and part of the shenanigans, but really he was against them. But he was sort of, I think there was even segments where he'd be like at the bar drinking a beer or something, and it was like, they were definitely playing that 96 Crow Sting character from WCW where he felt abandoned by WCW, but, he hated the NWO. Well, it was kind of the same thing, right? He felt abandoned by TNA Impact, but, he didn't like Aces and Eights. And as memory serves, 2013, he won the title from Bully Ray that year. He took the title off of him at that Bound for Glory show. I think it was 2013, and man, it's crazy. I remember it wasn't too long after that he was gone from the company because, as he would later say, they wanted to cut his pay by like 40 or 50%. I've heard I think he might have said 60%, right? But they want him to be the face of this company, but they're wanting to cut his pay by such a drastic amount, and he just said, no, I'm not going to do that. And it felt so weird, right? Because they were obviously building that storyline around him and him to be the one to save TNA, and it seemed like he was going to be the face of the company going forward. Like, he was going to be the big title holder and have a big title run, but he just sort of left the company soon after. And then he had his run in New Japan for 2.5 years there, and, he was part of the Bullet Club, the original founding, and then eventually he comes to WWE at that 2016 Royal Rumble show. If you remember, he comes out number 3, and he comes out, and the Titantron, the monitor says, "I am phenomenal," and everyone pops. And I think he said repeatedly that even though he got a big reaction, he wasn't really expecting it, but Vince didn't necessarily like him, sort of thing. Said that he had dozens of guys that could do what he did, and what he needed was a bulldog, and then you saw that sort of character change where AJ got a little bit more aggressive, right? And he became that sort of bulldog character. And it's one of those things. AJ's special, right? It's weird, right? Because as wrestling fans, we always talk about greatest of all time, and we often have like multiple lists, right? Greatest draws of all time. The greatest WWE superstar of all time, and the greatest worker of all time. We sort of have different lists for those things. Well, when you think about it, AJ Styles is in rarefied air because you got to put him on at least two of those lists, right? He's one of the greatest workers of all time. Shawn Michaels, Eddie Guerrero, Mr. Perfect, Kurt Angle, Bret Hart. That elite list of just workers who never had a bad match, who just moved so well, told a story, the very highest elite level of elite professional wrestling, right? AJ Styles is on that list. But he's also kind of on the list of just overall greatest professional wrestlers of all time. Now hear me out. What do I mean by that? Well, when you look at guys like Harley Race or Ric Flair or Dusty Rhodes, I would argue Chris Jericho modern day is on that. Guys that could work different territories and get over, who's not necessarily known for just one territory, right? You think about Dusty Rhodes, he got over in Florida, he got over in the Carolinas, he would get over in the South. Ric Flair is much the same. Whatever territory he went to, he got over. Harley Race, he would go around different territories and he would get over. And you look at modern guys. You look at a Jericho, or to some extent a Rey Mysterio, guys that they're different from Cena and Austin and Rock, who just got over in the WWE, and they're these huge draws. But it's like a different sort of list. Styles is on that greatest of all time professional wrestler list in the sense that he got over in whatever territory he worked. If you think about it, TNA, he was the top guy. He's a TNA Mount Rushmore guy. That's a different video. He got over in New Japan. He obviously got over in WWE. Can't really say he got over in WCW, but is that his fault? He started, late 2000, early 2001? The company was dying. It was dead, basically. Can't really put that on him. So he's in that rarefied air of at least two lists that you have to acknowledge him on. But, man, he's going in the Hall of Fame. It's deserved. It's definitely deserved. And look, who's going to induct him, right? Man, there's two names that I can think of. One works for AEW that I know of. I'm not sure. Actually, they both might. I'm not sure entirely, but I would have to think either Samoa Joe or Christopher Daniels would have to be one of those two guys. Maybe Jeff Jarrett. That would definitely make three. He just popped in my head now. So those would be the three that I would think that if you were going to induct him, it would have to be one of those three. That's all for this one, guys. Thank you.